You're listening to The Point. Ready or not, let's keep it real at Turning Point.
More often than not, the unexpected happens. Life comes with real challenges. The reason we're here is to have those hard conversations, to grow, and to realize we're not alone. Ready or not, let's start understanding more about the darkness of choosing against your culture from a woman who has been there and is still confident in that decision she made. About 135,000 children are adopted in the United States each year. 59% are from the child welfare or foster system. 26% are from other countries, and a very low 15% are voluntarily relinquished American babies. Welcome to The Point. I'm your host, Debbie Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of Turning Point, along with my co-host, Sherry Love, who is our nurse manager. As always, we have the fabulous Nikki on the headset, and with us today is Anna and her husband, Mike. Anna feels like she went against the norm for her culture when she chose to create an adoption plan for her baby during her unplanned pregnancy. So, Anna, tell us a little bit about where your story begins.
I was raised an only child because, up until my mom had me at 19. So I was an only child. So my mom and I were always really, really close. So I remember I took the pregnancy test, and usually you have to wait like 2-3 minutes for, the stick to turn blue or 2 lines to appear almost immediately. And there was just no denying at that point. I had to face facts. So I remember I called my mom, and she answered, and I was like, "Hey, Mom, I have to talk to you." And she says, "How far along are you?" I said, "You've got to be kidding me." She says, "I was waiting for this phone call." And she says, "What's your plan?" And one thing with me is I've always had a plan. I'm very, very controlling. I'm very structured. So I always have to have a plan. And I knew immediately, as soon as I found out I was pregnant, that I was going to give the baby up for adoption. So when my mom said, "Okay, what's your plan?" I said, "Adoption." She says, "Are you sure?" 100%. She says, "Okay, I'll start the process." So I was, like I said,
how old were you at that time?
So I was officially 20 at that point. And my mom said, "I'll take care of it. She says, "I'm going to need you to bring you home because I don't want you over there." "How far along are you?" And I said, "I'm probably about 6 months." And she says, "I need to go ahead and bring you home. I can't have you in Florida by yourself going through this, and I can't get to you, so I need to bring you home." So she says, "I need you to start tying up loose ends with your internship, find out what's going to happen, and I'll start looking for adoption agencies here and what we have to do." So she immediately went through the church. What do we have to do? My daughter's pregnant. She wants to give her baby up for adoption. Do you offer those services? And who she talked to, and I don't know who she talked to. She talked to a specific church or like an adoption agency within the church. But they said, "Yes, we do have those services. Your daughter, however, does have to go to counseling. And she does have to learn that what she did is a mistake, and she has to atone for her mistakes." Mom says, wait. This isn't a mistake. This is her choice. She decided 100% she's giving the baby up for adoption. That's not the mistake. And whoever she talked to said, no, the baby's not a mistake. A baby's never a mistake. The mistake that your daughter made was getting pregnant out of wedlock and having premarital sex. So we have to counsel her to make sure that she never does these sins again. And my mom was just, absolutely not. You are not going to make my daughter out to be some sort of sinner when she did nothing wrong. So, kind of funny story is my mom's left-handed. So whenever she looks through a book or a magazine, she always looks through it backwards. She went through the adoption, but she started at the very end, and she called certain places and didn't really get like a good, warm and fuzzy feeling about it. So the last place she called was a Welcome Heart or Loving Heart, something along those lines. So she called them up and she told them, "Look, I have a daughter. She's pregnant, but she does want to give her baby up for adoption. Can you help us?" And they said, "Absolutely, 100%. So the beginning of November, I flew home, and the church has these parishioners, I guess you would call them, that are part of this adoption agency that take in troubled girls. and they live with families or they live with other parishioners, and they help take care of them. So that way, once they have the baby, then they can go home and really no one's the wiser. So there was 3 girls that I lived with in Albuquerque, roughly around my age, probably, honestly, like 5 to 6 year age difference between all of us. So my parents at the time were living in Belen, and I was living in Albuquerque. So my grandparents still thought that I was living in Orlando.
Oh, wow.
So I would call them. I called them before Thanksgiving and said, I'm not going to be home tomorrow. I'm working. I have the holiday shift. Same thing with Christmas and New Year's. I'm working. I have the holiday shift. So I'd call them beforehand. So that way they could never really get a hold of me. And then that's how, from November until about mid-January, I lived in Albuquerque. And then after I had her, I went and stayed with my parents in Belen for about 2 weeks until I went back to school. Now, I started the semester a little bit late because I was still recovering. But we just told my grandparents that my internship got extended past the holidays, and so I was coming back late.
Yeah, it's easy enough to do.
Yeah. So they were, I mean, as far as I know, they're none the wiser. My husband and my dad seem to think that my grandma is very well aware of what's going on, because every now and then she'll throw in little, like, tidbits about, oh, I heard this about adoption, or oh, I heard this about adoption, or do you know who gave their baby over, stuff like that, which never before I don't think she ever would have mentioned. And maybe it's just because it's part of our life now, so we pick up on that more now. Or maybe she really does know, I don't know, but she's, as far as I know, her and my papa are playing dumb just like the rest of us are playing dumb.
What was it like for you in making the adoption plan?
It was actually pretty amazing. With the organization that we worked with, they were probably some of the most loving and understanding people that I have ever met in my entire life.
That's usually the feedback we hear. Yeah,
they were no judgment, no questions. There was never any animosity, never judgment, never nothing. They were just absolutely amazing. And I honestly think that had it not been this organization that they have, I don't know how blessed I would have felt with my decision. I mean, that's ultimately all I can say is my decision was 100% my decision. I never once regretted it. I never once questioned it. Once I set my mind to something, I pretty much stick with it. And it was truly, truly an amazing experience with them.
Right. And how did you pick the family?
So that's kind of funny. I was very, very adamant that the baby go to a Hispanic family because both myself and her dad are Hispanic. So I just wanted her to know what her culture was and be a part of the culture, that sort of thing. And my mom knew that. And I got to pick the families. I got to interview the families. It wasn't just like, hey, this is who you're going to give your baby up to. So I met with one family. They were probably in their mid-20s. Beautiful, beautiful couple, career-oriented. And they wanted to adopt, not because they couldn't have children, but I think because they were so career-oriented, they didn't want to take the time out of their careers for everything that comes along with being pregnant. So they wanted to adopt. So I thought, perfect score. Exactly what I'm looking for. No big deal. And my mom says, well, there's another family I want you to meet. I said, no, I already know that it's this family. No, I really think you should. And my mom is probably the only person that can play certain hands with me to look at something differently, to get out of my box. She's probably, like I said, the only one that can do that. She plays the guilt card a lot too, and she can get me on it every time, and no one else can guilt trip me except my mother. It's like a special, it's like a special talent she has. So, no, Mom, I'm adamant. This is the family. She says, no, I agree with you. This is a great family, and yes, I think the baby should go to them. She says, but what happens if one day you look back and you're like, I wonder whatever happened to that family if they got a baby? She says, don't you think that you should at least meet them so then that way you have a picture in your head? And she just kept on and on. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll meet them. Okay, fine. The day that I met them in the evening. Earlier that day, I had an ultrasound. So I had found out that morning that I was having a girl. So they give me the picture and I'm excited. So I have the picture with me to give to the Hispanic family when I give them my answer. Yes, I want you to raise the child. So I have it with me and we're waiting to meet the other parents and they have a younger son who was probably about 5 at the time. And so we go into a room and we're sitting there and they're asking me questions and asking them questions, whatnot. And James says, Mama, can I ask her a question? Sure, ask her. And he says, can I ask you a question? I said, sure, you can ask me a question. Keep in mind, I'm an only grandchild at this point. I'm not used to being around kids at all. And so he's crawling up into my lap, so it's kind of awkward. I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. There's a random kid in my lap. But he says, do you know if I'm going to have a brother or sister? I said, well, what do you think you're going to have? And he says, I'm going to have a sister. I said, why do you think that? He says, well, the other day I was outside playing on the swings and Jesus came and he told me, don't worry. You're going to be getting a little sister that has brown hair and you'll be meeting her soon. So that for me was, this is the family. God chose this family. And as soon as he said that, I looked at my mom, and my mom's not a crier at all. In fact, we call her the Tin Man in the family because she's so, non-emotional. But I looked at her, and she was crying, and she just kind of shook her head, and I'm thinking, you knew Bill and Shelly are going to be the parents. And they said, really? You choose us? And I said, without a doubt, Jesus is the one that chose you. This happened for a reason. I am pregnant with your child. Without a doubt, she is your child. So that's how it happened. And then I had found out after all this, and this was why my mom wanted me to meet them so bad, is they were pregnant and she had their second son at 6 months. And he spent about 2.5, 3 months in NICU. And when he finally came home, they had him home for about 2 weeks. And they woke up one morning and he had passed away of SIDS. And because of her gestational diabetes, she was never able to have children again. So that's why Jesus told him, don't worry, you're going to get a little sister. So that's how they were chosen. And they are remarkable. It's a semi-closed adoption. I can't communicate with them, but they can communicate with me. But I didn't know their last names. I didn't know exactly where they lived. I knew that he used to be a chemist and she used to be a school teacher. But that's about all I knew. I knew her name, of course, and her middle name is my middle name, so there was a little bit of me that they wanted to keep with that. Every month for her first year, I got a picture in her letter. And then after her first birthday, I got 1 letter a year and then pictures with that letter. And up until the age of 4, I think it was, the pictures and letters stopped. And then when she turned 18, our file would become open to her only. So if she ever wanted to seek me out, after that point she could. She wouldn't need her parents' permission or consent or anything. So every year for her birthday, it was always kind of bittersweet because we have a nephew who's 4 months younger than her. So I would see him take his first steps or, his first words or first day of school. And it was always kind of like my daughter would be doing this at the same time or roughly around the same time and I'm missing out on it. Or when he had birthdays, I would always think, oh, what would we do for her birthday this year? How would we celebrate this year? So it was always kind of bittersweet because of that. But then also that's 1 year closer to her 18th birthday. And I never really wanted to get my hopes up because, who's to say that she just didn't completely write me off and these are my parents and that's it and this is all I need to know. And
Does she know she's adopted?
Yes. Around the age of 12, 13, they would explain to her what had happened. I wrote her a letter for them to present to her, just telling her how much I loved her and why I did what I did, why I felt it was the best decision for her. So then that way she would know her birth mother absolutely was in love with her. And that's why I did what I had to do. I don't know when they gave it to her.
Was that a hard letter to write?
It kind of was, only because I didn't want her to ever think that she wasn't good enough or that I didn't love her I didn't want her to hate me, because you hear, you know, on television shows or movies or something mainstream, social media, stuff like that, when they talk about adoption, a lot of times they portray it as the children are now antagonistic towards their birth parents because they hate them for whatever reason. Seldom ever do you ever see adoption stories, whether fictional, well, and mostly just fictional, portrayed on television or films, where they have that connection. They show that the birth parent did this for a reason, and that we really do love our children.
It can be such a blessing.
Yes, absolutely.
And such a huge sacrifice.
Yes.
On your part.
Yes, absolutely.
To bless totally another family.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. And to trust basically complete and utter strangers to the care of your child. The letter was hard, but I think it was very cathartic for me, just to be able to get it all out.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom is the one who doesn't really like to talk about things. It happened. We cried. We move on.
Yeah,
she doesn't dwell on it. Yeah. And for the most part, I'm kind of like that too. My husband and my best friend, who cries at a drop of a hat, constantly tell me that I'm emotionally constipated because I don't show a lot of emotion. I am very, very, very locked up, and I'm well aware of this. And when it's my time to cry and let it out, then it's usually when I'm in the shower or when I'm by myself, just so I can let it out. So that letter was a lot like that, just letting it all out, just purging it. So it was nerve-wracking, but the faith that I had in her parents, I always knew that without a doubt, should she ever question where she came from or who her mom is or anything like that, I always knew that they would always cultivate that, and they would, if this is what you want, if you want to seek out your birth mom, then sure, we'll help you do that. So I always had that faith. So I was never really scared about her parents inhibiting her from doing it. I was always scared of her being like, I don't need to. This is who I am. These are my parents. This is my brother. And this is where I came from. And that was just something that I've always had to live with and always had to tell myself that ultimately could be her decision, and I have to respect that.
Right.
And I have. I really have. Especially in the social media age, and all I had is her first name and her parents' first name, so it's not like I had a whole lot to look up, but I could have, if I wanted to try to figure things out, try to catch a glimpse of her somewhere, but I just never did, because I always just felt like I had to respect her, and I have to respect her parents.
How do you feel like that impacted you overall? Like, as in who you are today?
I think it made me realize that I'm a lot stronger than I ever thought I was. Because to be able to hold your child and know that in a matter of minutes, you're going to walk out that hospital and you could never see them again. And it's just something that you just have to fight through. And it's something that is with you every day. But it is also something, the way I look at it, something extremely, extremely beautiful. She has a remarkable life with her parents and with her family. There was no way on God's green earth that at that point in my life, I could have given her even a quarter of what she has. So I think it made me a lot stronger in every aspect. It made me realize how strong I was.
Absolutely.
And even though I held her for maybe 4 hours before I left the hospital, in that moment, I just absolutely knew that I would go to war for this little girl for the rest of my life. I would, no questions asked.
And to find that courage that you did.
I just think at that point, you have to take yourself out of the equation. And that is your first duty as a parent. Regardless of how far along you are, regardless if the baby's actually there in front of you, that is your first duty as a parent, is to protect this child and sacrifice for that child. Mm-hmm. And that's where adoption comes into place. It's no longer about you and what other people may say or what other people may do or what other people may think. Who cares? This has nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with you, and has everything 100% to do with your child.
That's beautifully said.
That really is. And so how do you think as a culture we create it to be more mainstream, that adoption is more talked about and more...
I think we just need to get it out there more. It's sad that the negative is always shown, like I said earlier, in films and in television. But I think that the beautiful aspects of adoption, the stories that are like mine, those need to be mainstream. Those are a happy ending too. It's just not, the princess gets the prince. It's not about that. This is a happy ending. This is a beautiful, beautiful story. And not just because it's my story all the way. I'm kind of biased. But I know that there's other families out there that have beautiful adoption stories like this too. And those need to be talked about. Those need to be shouted from the rooftops. There is another option, and you need to think about it. I think the hardest step forward is going to be the culture.
Sounds like you had a lot of maturity at that age.
I had to.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, I was no longer a 20-year-old having fun living away from home, partying it up like it was the real world on MTV or anything anymore. Now I had some hard and fast decisions that I had to make, and I had to grow up real quick because of it. This was a huge curveball. Huge. After the initial reactions and figuring out what I was going to do, I had to take control of everything again, of my life again, and what was going to happen. And once that happened, then everything else just kind of fell into place. I no longer felt like I was just floating out there. Everything was being taken care of. Everything was being put into place. There was a plan for me to follow. And once it was that, then it was fine. I knew exactly what was going to happen.
That's incredible. And what'll be even more is if you come back and share with us in a few years kind of the rest of the story, if and when you get to her. And I don't know, that would just be amazing.
Funny you should say that. So my parents went on vacation in October, and they were gone for a week. And when my mom got back from vacation, that first Monday that she went back to work, she calls me at my office and she says, I have something to tell you, and you may freak out a little bit, so I need you to be prepared. And I'm thinking, oh my, what happened? What's happened to Grandma and Papa? What's going on with you? Okay, just give it to me so I can freak out, and then I can put a plan in place, and then I'm okay. Because that's how I still work. That's never going to change. And she says, I got an email from Bill. And I knew immediately what she was talking about. I said, what happened? What happened to her? Is she okay? And she says, she's fine. She's been asking about where she comes from, and she's been asking about her mom. So they reached out to me to see if we would be interested in communicating.
Wow.
And so we started communicating with them. I got pictures of her. She looks exactly like me. There's no denying that she is.
Wow.
Yeah, she looks. It was scary, to be honest with you. You look at those pictures and be like, oh my word. From the smile to the hair to, glasses, everything. Everything. She looks like me.
Wow.
Up until, I want to say, Christmas, I had just been communicating with her parents, constantly reiterating, we're going to follow your lead. So whatever you're comfortable with in terms of communication, we're 100% on board. We're not going to be pushy. We're not, just because you open that door, we don't want to barge through that door. So you let us know what you're comfortable with, and that's what we'll do. So January 4th was her birthday, and I emailed her parents and I said, if you're comfortable with it, will you please let her know that I said happy birthday? And then probably not even 10 minutes later, I got an email back directly from my daughter telling me, thank you for thinking of her. Thank you for remembering it was her birthday. It means more to her than I could ever imagine. And it's something really special to her.
And that's the first time you had heard from
Directly
her.
from her.
And caught up on a life that you were able to give her. That's a powerful story.
I mean, everything that she's done, everything that she's accomplished, that she's continuing to accomplish, there is no way, in any way, shape, or form, that I ever would have been able to give her that. Maybe eventually I would have been able to, but jumping off, there's no way I've been able to give her a quarter of what her parents have. That alone to me was just like the cherry on top of my decision. Like I said, I've never once regretted or questioned my decision, but just knowing that she's happy, she's healthy, she has a beautiful family, there's no question that I did not make the right decision. I know without a doubt that this was what was supposed to happen. This was the journey that God chose for me for whatever reason. And I'm 100% appreciative of that.
Anna, we thank you for being here today and sharing your story. Mike, thank you that you came out to support her in this. I know it's not always easy to talk about those times in our life that were a struggle and that were hard. It's a brave type of love that can give the ultimate sacrifice to lay down what you want so that your baby can have a better life. That's amazing to me. So thank you for joining us. If you're facing an unplanned pregnancy, don't hesitate to call or text 575-520-1147 for an appointment or just to talk. We're always here to help. If you are wanting more information about adoption, visit bravelove.org. They also have a list of licensed counselors throughout the nation. You can get all kinds of information from testimonials just like Anna of moms that have been there and done that and just the impact that it had on their lives. You can read frequently asked questions about the adoption process, whether you are contemplating making an adoption plan for your baby or you are contemplating adoption for yourself personally. Those are some good resources, and if they don't have the answers there, they do know where to get the answers. You can subscribe or follow us, like us on Facebook or Instagram, and remember, stars can't shine without darkness.